What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, recapping the latest Broncos news and rumors on Russell Wilson versus Pete Carroll. Plus, we're going to talk about Dre'Mont Jones and whether or not we could see a mid-season contract extension. All that coming up and more on today's show. But let's start with Russ, because yesterday after his press conference, during his press conference, after practice, whatever, he fired back at Pete Carroll, who had some not-so-subtle jabs at Russell Wilson when he was speaking to the media on his weekly, radio talk show 30-minute segment or whatever. Here's what Pete Carroll said during that. If you notice, Gino's going off the wristband, and that's a big help. It smoothed things out, sped up things, cleaned things up, and that's part of it too. We never did that before. There was resistance to that, so we didn't do that before. Pete Carroll also go on to say, when Shane Waldron, the OC, says something to Gino, he's not doubting it. He's just going with it. So there's a real immediate flow, and that accelerates all the process. This is a clear and obvious shot to Russell Wilson, right? Saying there was resistance before. The resistance wasn't Marshawn Lynch or Doug Baldwin saying, I don't think the quarterback should have any kind of wrist sleeve. No, this is clearly Pete Carroll sending a body bag over to Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson then responded to what Pete Carroll said, saying, I don't know exactly what he said, but I won a lot of games there without one on the wrist. I didn't know winning or losing mattered if you wore a wristband or not. We do whatever it takes to make sure that we're rolling, moving, and everything else. A few times, I definitely wore a wristband, depending on the game plan, what we had called, and all that stuff. So, in my opinion, through all this here, the Seahawks are unfortunately winning this trade. They are winning this divorce. So I don't really not even like to see Russ clap back. He's got a right to kind of stand up for himself. But it's one of those just sort of moments of, listen, the Seahawks, they're going to dunk on the Broncos, and it's hard to really stop them. They have Denver's pick, and they're doing better than the Broncos this year. Now, what I don't really like, and this really ticks me off, is all the Seahawks fans are going to be in this comment section, no doubt about it. And when they join our watch parties, all that stuff, that have this, memory loss of them crying when Russ was traded. They did not want to trade Russ. And Pete Carroll, not long ago, definitely didn't want to trade Russell Wilson. And now that things are going well with Gino, he's going to act like his, not to go full Colin Cowherd mode on you guys here, but his supermodel ex-wife and sports card in Russell Wilson was never what he wanted after all. He was always looking for the, nice GMC Geno Smith. No. So, if you guys remember, earlier this season, back in September, an ESPN beat reporter for the Seahawks, Brady Henderson, dropped a bombshell article really outlining the Russ and Seahawks divorce. And this snippet from it really caught my attention when I read it again yesterday/today. As detailed in a 2017 ESPN The Magazine story by Seth Wickersham, Seahawks defenders grew resentful in later years over their belief that Carroll gave Wilson preferential treatment. And now, according to a front office source, Carroll was staunchly opposed to the idea of trading his franchise quarterback, believing that he could manage the drama and Wilson's declining mobility. Allow me to further elaborate on that little snippet right there and really run with it. Because here is Pete Carroll sending shots and blows to Russell Wilson when he was on his knees for Russell Wilson for so many years. Be consistent, dude. Don't act like you gave whatever Russ wanted, and you were Team Russ. You babied Russ, right? You were always on Russ's side when defenders were resentful and were saying they were giving him preferential treatment. So I don't really like to see Pete Carroll kind of walk back what he had done for years with Russell Wilson because things are going so great with Geno Smith right now. It's hard to have a take on this when the Seahawks are kicking the Broncos' ass in this trade, and people like myself look super dumb right now. But I guess credit to Russ a little bit for standing up for himself, and it was kind of a sassy response. I kind of liked it, I guess, now the more I think about it. But still, it's just one of those moments where you're already losing. It doesn't help trying to fight back. Just eat your words, and hopefully you can start winning, turn it around, and prove that the trade was better. All right. I've seen this in the comments a lot, and I figured while we're talking about Russ, we could kind of weave this into the conversation. So the Broncos draft a quarterback. Now that they are back in the first round, I am full on draft an offensive lineman. You've had a revolving door at right tackle since Orlando 10 plus years ago or whatever, right? No. I say draft a right tackle and start to rebuild up front. But let me know, should the Broncos draft a quarterback, yes or no? All right, next up on the show, what is Dre'Mont Jones' future with the team? And after speaking to the media yesterday, it gives us a better insight, sort of what is to come, right? What is on the horizon. Now, we do have a Week 10 sub battle going on here between our channel and Titans Today by Chat Sports. We're dunking on them. It's a massacre. It's a bloodbath, but let's make it bloodier, right? Let's really pull away from our Titans Today channel here at Chat Sports. I think the Broncos got a really good shot of winning this game coming off the bye. The Titans not doing anything in the second half all season. If Russ is Russ after the bye, there's no reason they can't beat Malik Willis here. All right, next up, let's talk about Dre'Mont Jones here because this has been a big name in the news cycle recently as Dre'Mont Jones was asked yesterday about his future with the team, and he's entering the last year of his rookie contract, former third-round pick out of Ohio State, and George Paton said he is one of our core players. So, to me, that leads me to believe that George Paton, when he says core players, he views them as someone who is going to be here long term, okay? Now, George Stoa, who covers the Broncos, tweeting out, Dre'Mont Jones was asked in the locker room if he wants to stay in Denver long term. I'm here right now. Jones added he's not worried about cap space or anything like that right now. All right, then Dre'Mont also followed that up with this here. I view my standing with the franchise as this is Dre going into year 4. That's all I can say. Honestly, I appreciate his honesty and bluntness, right? He knows what's on the table here. He has 5.5 sacks career-wise going this year and last year. Dre'Mont Jones is having a very good season so far. 5.5 sacks this year. Those are the numbers from last year. 5.5 sacks the year before. So he's already matched his sack total like that, and he is racking it up so far this season. And he knows he can be a pretty expensive guy on the free agent market. He can definitely run up a tab a little bit here. Now, I did see something on Twitter yesterday from DNVR talking about a Dre'Mont Jones contract extension, which I've got no real issue with. I think Dre'Mont Jones has definitely played himself into being a long-term feature on this Broncos defense, especially after trading Bradley Chubb. Last thing you want to do is trade Chubb and then lose Dre'Mont Jones, potentially your top 2 sack leaders in the season after just one season. But be the GM for me. I saw this number thrown out, and I want to bring it to your attention. Would you give Dre'Mont Jones $22 million a season? That's a big number, right? $22 million a season. You know, when you're a free agent and you're coming off your best year yet, that's a great time to cash in. I bet George Paton. Actually, I'll save that for a second. First, the cap space, though. Before you even really answer that question, I think it's important to have a good foundation here. The Broncos currently have $17.4 million in cap space, but they can easily make some more room by converting salaries into signing bonuses. The cap is a myth, right? You see 17.4 and you go, there's no way they can sign anyone. Guys, half of the league is in the red next year for the cap. They're not going to stay that way. You can move money around a little bit. But this is what I was teasing just 30 seconds ago. Watch for George Paton to make a mid-season contract extension to avoid free agency so he doesn't have to pay top dollar, kind of like what he did with Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick, look at his contract extension. He got it last year right around this time, November 19th, 2021. It's November 10th. And he got him for 3 years, $30 million. $10 million for Tim Patrick. That is a bargain, okay? And Courtland Sutton, remember, was only a couple of days after Patrick, where they inked him to a 4-year, $60.8 million contract extension. So we have learned a couple things under George Paton. He likes to make trades before the trade deadline. We've seen that with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, okay? He likes to make midseason extensions so that he doesn't have to pay guys maybe a little bit more in free agency. We We saw that with Patrick and Courtland Sutton. I expect the same thing coming for Dre'Mont Jones. I am sensing a George Paton midseason contract extension so that he doesn't have to take him to March and let other teams potentially run up the bill on Dre'Mont Jones. Now, this would require Dre'Mont Jones to maybe settle for what could be a little bit less, but get a lot of guaranteed money. You see what I mean? So, for that reason, I do think Dre'Mont Jones ultimately does get an extension. Hopefully, he signs it, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Signing off. Seeing you guys later with a Broncos-Titans preview.